Unit 17 by J. Jung. This presentation includes the following: an analysis of characteristics of play, discussion of types of play, analysis of the links between play and learning, and compare and contrasting a range of learning theories. Now, what is play? Play varies among activities, social contexts and age groups. It may involve a game, but not always. Play can involve imagination, but may also base itself on reality. Many theorists have endeavoured to make concrete attempts to clear the water on the definition of play. According to Jean Piaget, play is a way for children to unify experiences, knowledge and understanding. Vygotsky considered play to be important for individuals' cognitive development. Peter K. Smith believes a definition of play is important while noting the quandary in attaining a single, all-embracing definition. The characteristics of play. Play is a generic term which can be applied to different types of activities and behaviours that are satisfying to the child, freely chosen by the child and creative for the child. A key characteristic of play is enjoyment because it enables children to be creative and explore when they're enjoying something. Children, given the opportunity, will play anywhere, anytime. Why is play important? Play allows children to use their creativity while developing their imagination, physical, cognitive and emotional strength. Play is important to healthy brain development. Play also enables children to learn and develop new skills and to improve on existing skills. Just think of a toddler starting out to play with building blocks. First they stack one on top of another, but usually they topple over. After a few tries they get the hang of it, and before long they're building a tower of bricks. You'll be astounded at the scope of a child's imagination and expression if you sat back discreetly and watched them play and explore. Children do not need expensive toys or equipment to be able to play. A toddler playing in the garden would probably make games using rocks, sticks and mud. Through play, children develop language skills, their emotions and creativity, social and intellectual skills. For most children, their play is natural and spontaneous, although some children may need extra help from adults. There are many types of play, and the reason there are many different terms used for various types of play is so that practitioners can discuss play using the same language. Types of play. Bob Hughes, an acknowledged expert and author on play, published his descriptions of different types of play in 1996. He used the term taxonomy of play to describe the different play types that children explore throughout their childhood. Using these different descriptions of play enables play workers to use common language when exchanging ideas about how children play. Here are a few examples of types of play. Role play is where a child acts out the role of somebody else whom they've met, for example a shopkeeper or a bus driver. Locomotor play describes movement in any or every direction for its own sake, for example chase, tag, hide and seek and tree climbing. Symbolic play is play which allows control, gradual exploration and increased understanding without the risk of children being out of their depth. Examples of this might include using a piece of wood to represent a person or an object, or a piece of string to symbolise a wedding ring. Rough and tumble play, touching, tickling, gorging, relative strength, discovering physical flexibility and enjoying the sheer exhilaration of display. Imagination play, play where the conventional rules which govern the physical world do not apply. For example, children may believe they are ships or trees, or pat a dog which isn't there. Next we are going to look at Mildred Parton. She was an American psychologist and researcher in child development. She developed a system for classifying play in 1932 following her research observing young children. According to her classification, there were 6 types of play that children develop. These are not necessarily age related, and children will at different times use different types of play. Her classification has some links with Piaget's development stages, as I'll explain. Unoccupied play, observing rather than playing with an object, sometimes observing and playing with their own body, e.g. babies twiddling with their fingers or kicking their legs. Onlooker behaviour, watching other children play. Solitary play, children play happily when they're on their own. And parallel play, children play alongside other children without joining in with their play. This can take place together with an onlooker behaviour, with a child watching other children at play and then playing alongside them but not with them. According to Parton, as children become older, improving their communication skills and as opportunities for peer interaction become more common, the non-social types of play like solitary play become less common, and the social types of play like parallel play become more common. There is a disagreement on whether there is indeed a sequence of play stages that children go through. For example, whether toddlers are really unable to play cooperatively, and whether solitary play in older children is less common or a sign of immaturity. Alternative explanations suggest that types of play may be influenced by other circumstances, such as how well children know each other. Jean Piaget is the most commonly linked with cognitive development. He strongly believed that children predominantly learn and develop through play. He believes that children develop their intellectual abilities in 4 stages from birth to 12. As you can see, Piaget saw a very clear connection between play and learning. Stage 1, the sensory motor stage, is like practice play. Stage 2, the pre-operational stage, is like symbolic play. Stage 3, concrete operational stage, is games with rules. And stage 4, the formal operational stage, is the final stage. A little fact about Piaget. In an experiment on formal operational thought, Piaget asked children to imagine where they would want to have their third eye if they had one. Younger children said that they would put this imagined third eye in the middle of their forehead. Older children, however, were able to come up with a range of creative ideas about where to place this hypothetical eye, and various ways the eye could be used. An eye in the middle of their hand would be useful for looking around corners. An eye at the back of their head could be helpful for seeing what is behind them. These types of creative ideas represent the use of abstract and hypothetical thinking, which are both important indicators of formal operational thinking. Classical conditioning, operant conditioning, and the social learning theory. I'm comparing 3 different learning theories: classical conditioning, operational conditioning, and the social learning theory. These learning theories are approached differently, but they have many similarities. Classical conditioning is a learning process that occurs when 2 stimuli are repeatedly paired. A response which is first elicted by the second stimulus is eventually elicted by the first stimulus alone. Ian Pavlov mainly studied the response of animals, in particular dogs, when they were given food. The starting point for him was the idea that dogs don't usually salivate when they see food. This reflex is hardwired into the dog. Pavlov demonstrated the unconditioned response by presenting the dog with a bowl of food and then measuring its salivation sequence. However, Pavlov discovered that any object or event which the dog learnt to associate with food would trigger the same response. One of the main criticisms, however, of classical conditioning is that it is deterministic. This means that it does not allow for any degree of free will and underestimates the uniqueness of each individual. This is a image that just shows the conditioned response. Operant conditioning. Operant conditioning is the learning process through which the strength of a behaviour is modified by reinforcing or punishing. Skinner developed the theory of operant conditioning. He studied the behaviour of rats in a maze-like box, which he constructed to train their behaviour. If the rats travelled the correct way through the maze, they were rewarded with food, which is positive reinforcer. But if they travelled the wrong way, they received a mild electric shock. He concluded that rats learned to travel the correct way because of the positive reinforcement they received. He realised that the rats continued to repeat the correct behaviour in return for the reward of the food. The social learning theory, which is next, is a theory of a learning process and social behaviour which possesses new behaviours that can acquire by observing and imitating others. The main principles of the social learning theory are that learning occurs within a social context and children learn through modelling, observational learning and imitation. Bandura identified 3 basic models of observational learning which can influence both children positively and negatively. A live model involving an individual demonstrating a behaviour in person, a verbal instructional model involving descriptions and explanations of a behaviour, and a symbolic model involving fictional or real characters showing behaviour on television or programmes or online media. One of the major similarities in both classical conditioning and operant conditioning is that both are learning by association. Classical conditioning is learning based on 2 stimuli. Operant conditioning is learning through either positive reinforcement or positive or negative punishment or reinforcement. This is different from the social learning theory, as this is based on observing others. Other similarities in classical conditioning and operant conditioning are that neither will last if they're not reinforced. Also, in both cases, the responses are under control in a stimulus environment. There are many ways which people learn. Each of these different theories has a unique and different approach. Thank you for taking the time to watch my presentation. And at the end of the slide, I've put the references.